What's up, YouTube? It's Dwap 2001. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're back on the missing youths, bro. On the missing kids, bro. On the missing everybody, bro. I don't know what's in the air, but there's someone out here stealing people. You know what I mean? I hope if you're a nigga, if you think you're a nigga that like can hold himself down, then I guess it's not for you. But like, you gotta watch out for your loved ones. You feel me? Where was it? Um, uh, yeah. Colton Dowie was last seen in the West End, Ottawa, police said. Ottawa police asked for help as they look for teen missing since December 17, and he's 15. Yeah, the shit niggas were doing at 15, bro. But the thing is, when you're that age, when you put teen beside a number, people, I wouldn't say people, but like kids would think like, yo, I'm actually old, you know what I mean? Like they really associate teen to like getting older. But it's like, yo, you know how in the real world, like you're not shit. Like you get what I'm trying to say? Like, look how small this kid is, bro. Hold on, let me read. Colton Dowie Daw was last seen in West End, Ottawa. And at the time he was wearing a puffy gray jacket, a white or black sweater, blue pajama pants, and black Crocs. Police said in a news release Monday. Police said Colton Dowie, known to use public transportation, frequent Torito, Place Orleans, Saint Laurent, College Square in Ottawa, downtown Ottawa. But like, yeah, I dropped a video like earlier in the year, like, yo, like this type of like it reached the point like, yo, I'm speechless. Let me get my thoughts together, fam. I, I really hope he'll be found. You know what I mean? Most times, like when it's a case like this, it's like uh, usually the kids at like a friend's house. You know what I mean? They probably had a dispute with the parents. What December 17th is what Thursday. That's when everyone went for Christmas break. But like it's always right to take the right precautions. You know what I mean? But look at all these stories. This is where it gets crazier. Yeah, just make sure you follow. The family of the man. Mm. Mm. Uh, yeah, this is more like it. This is what I'm looking for. So this sh- so this page shows you like how often and how like the age ranges of like the people that are going missing. 'Cause the biggest thing about going missing is like, where are you? You know what I'm saying? And if you're okay, so let me see if this has any more updates. Well, I'm gonna try to just stick to auto. Pretty slow day. Let me see if this shit's out though. That Epstein list shit. Did you guys see that? Holy fuck, dog. It's hot in here. Shit. The fuck, man.
When I'm creating a recipe, the ingredient
files, the Department of Justice missing a key deadline to release all of the Epstein photos and documents. Now, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi is under fire, facing a bipartisan threat of legal action from lawmakers pushing to have her held in contempt. And tonight, the new response from a spokesperson for former President Bill Clinton. ABC's Jay O'Brien reports from Capitol Hill.
Tonight, growing backlash after the Department of Justice missed the legal deadline to release all of its Jeffrey Epstein files. Members of Congress from both sides of the aisle now threatening legal action. The two congressmen behind the new law forcing the release of the files, pressing for a House vote to hold Attorney General Pam Bondi in contempt.
They're flouting the spirit and the letter of the law. It's very troubling, the posture that they've taken.
By law, the DOJ had until last Friday to release all of its Epstein-related records. But sources tell ABC News what the department published was just a fraction of its Epstein files, and reams of released records are heavily redacted, entire pages blacked out. In a statement, more than a dozen Epstein survivors, including Danny Bensky, writing, "We are told there are hundreds of thousands of pages of documents still unreleased. These are clear-cut violations of an unambiguous law."
We have pages and pages of grand jury testimony that are completely black, and then there have been survivor names that have been released. And so it just feels absolutely intentionally careless at this point.
Among the thousands of records already released, photos of former President Bill Clinton and Epstein. No Epstein survivor has ever accused Clinton of wrongdoing. And tonight, a Clinton spokesperson challenging the DOJ to immediately release any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of Bill Clinton. Refusing to do so will confirm the widespread suspicion the Department of Justice's actions to date are not about transparency, but about insinuation. Tonight, in his first remarks since the files started to be released, President Trump asked about the photos made public so far.
A lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was at a party, and you ruin a reputation of somebody. So a lot of people are very angry that this continues.
And with the DOJ drawing scrutiny tonight for removing more than a dozen previously released photos, including one of President Trump saying it was double checking to make sure the identities of victims were not released. This photo was later restored. The Deputy Attorney General promising that any photo or mention of President Trump in these files will be made public. Whit.
All right, Jay O'Brien, thank you for that.
Crazy.
With Udemy,
were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full?
What?
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they're giving their photos of me too. Everybody was friendly with this guy, either friendly or not friendly, but he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers. And Bill Clinton was a friend of his, but everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. And as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. This is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place I think it's the hottest place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida. And everybody would come here. He'd come here. We actually threw him out. But no, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton's a big boy. He can handle it. But you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein many years ago, and they're highly respected bankers and lawyers and others, and they'll end up, because of guys like Massey, who's a real lowlife, whose polls are down to about 9%, by the way, in the great state of Kentucky. If you look at Kentucky, Kentucky is such a great place, but I don't know, they've got a couple of people in there that are very strange in terms of leadership, but Massey's a loser. and he likes it, and that he works with the Democrats. He's just being used by the Democrats, because what this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished. I believe they gave over 100,000 pages of documents, and there is tremendous backlash. It's an interesting question, because a lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was at a party, and you ruin a reputation of somebody. So a lot of people are very angry that this continues. A lot of Republicans are angry because of the fact that it's just used to deflect against a tremendous success. Look, we have $18 trillion coming into our country. We have, I believe, we're going to have the most successful economy in history. We inherited a mess. Now prices are coming way down. Gasoline is less than $2 in some states, $1.99, $1.97, $1.95 a gallon. $1.95. Think of that. A gallon. Nobody ever thought they'd see that. They don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about Epstein. And the problem is a lot of Democrats are being caught up in the web, like Larry Summers. Larry Summers was the head of Harvard. He's now been forced to resign from every board he's on, and he was thrown off the Harvard board. Now, he was at Epstein's Island a lot. I wasn't. I never went there, by the way. But fortunately, it's nice. But I never went there. But a lot of people did go there. But instead of talking about the battleships, or instead of talking about most favored nations drugs, we're bringing down drug prices like at a level that has never even been thought of, by thousands. Think of it, by 1,000%, by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400% in some cases. A drug that sells for $10 in London is costing $130 in New York. We're bringing it down to $20, and they're going to go up to 20. So they're going from 10 to 20, which is a doubling. It's a doubling. That's a lot, but it's a doubling. But we're going down to 20. So we're going down, if you can do your own math, but it's 2,000%, 3,000%. It's pretty amazing. And you know, the New York Times had a story about it, a small story, way in the back of the paper. It's the single biggest thing to happen with respect to drugs probably in 50 years. It's never been anything like this. In my first term, I was able to get drug prices down 0.25%. It's the first time in 28 years that they went down. 0.25%. I was so proud of myself. Now we're doing them 2,000%, 1,500%, 1,200%. That pill that sold for $130 will now be selling, as an example, for $20, because the rest of the world took advantage of us. Without tariffs, I could have never done it. I called up the heads of the countries. As an example, France, I spoke to a very good man, President Macron of France, and I said, Emmanuel, you have to raise your drug prices. He said, no, 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 we will not do that. I said, you have to. He said, no, I don't want to do that. Look, you're asking me if I go to $10 to $20, you're going to come way down to 20. We don't want to do that. Now, in all fairness, no other president even tried. But if they did try, there was actually a fake story in stupid USA Today. I didn't even think they'd make it anymore. I haven't. But I saw a story where Biden was trying to do this. Biden never tried to do it. Biden didn't know he was alive. He never tried to do it. But they're taking it from $10 to 20. So he would say, and the other leader said the same thing. No, no, we won't do it. I said, no, no, you're going to do it 100%. They said, nope, we're not doing it. We're not going to double our price. Because, again, if you go from $10 to $20, they're doubling their price. We're coming down, though, from $130 to $20, because we're going to get the lowest drug prices in the world. Whatever the lowest price is called favored nations, we're going to have the lowest price. So I said, no, no, you're going to. No, no, I will not do this. Politically, it's unacceptable. I said, Emmanuel, you're going to do it 100%. Please accept it now. Be nice. You're going to do it 100%. No, 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 I will not. I said, yes, you are. He said, why do you keep telling me I am when I'm not, because if you don't do it, I'm going to put a 25% tariff on everything France sells into the United States of America. And that's approximately 20 times more than I'm asking for with respect to drug prices. He said, oh, I see. I agree to do it. Every other country said the exact same thing. They all said, nope, I will not do it. I said, all right, on Monday morning, you'll have the 25% tariff, everything you sell. In the case of France, it was wine, champagne, cars, everything they sell. It's 25 to 30 times the price of what we're talking about, at 25%. Every single country agreed. And that was a big problem. The drug companies were difficult, but fine, because we have a certain control over the drug companies. We had no control over these foreign nations. So every single country has agreed to do this. So we will take that pill price down as an example, talking about not just pills, we're talking about everything. We'll take it down from $130 a pill down to $20 a pill. And the rest of the world will take it from $10 a pill up to $20. It's the biggest thing ever to happen, and it's covered, barely covered in the New York Times, because it's a fake newspaper. Yeah.
Mr. President, on
the world's first titanium nonstick pan. It's gonna blow your hair back. I'm Mike Pagale, 3 Michelin chef, and I've been cooking for 25 years. This is the coolest innovation of our lifetime. The nonstick surface is made with titanium. There's no coating on it. You can't scratch it. Not to mention there's no Teflon.
But K-File's extensive reporting now shows the two shared a close social circle for nearly 2 decades, from private jet flights to high-profile parties, and that's only part of the story. Photos, flight logs, and court records help reveal how long their personal history really was. K-File's Andrew Kaczynski is here with all of that, and it is some extensive research and reporting that you all did. You've chronicled this relationship between Trump and Epstein from the 80s to, what, mid-2000s is obviously when their contact probably cut off. What's the most striking thing that you find that kind of contradicts this? Donald Trump is no fan of Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, so what we found, it really actually paints a portrait starting, as you said, in the 1980s up to the mid-2000s. It paints this portrait of a long, enduring friendship. I think there were several associates who have called them best friends. Epstein himself said that he was Donald Trump's closest friend for 10 years. And we looked through these hundreds of hours of video, hundreds of photos. We went through documents from court files, exhibits from lawsuits. So we really chronicled this whole relationship through time. And one thing that I found really interesting was these flight logs from Epstein's private jet, which were part of that investigation into Ghislaine Maxwell. And they really tell you a story of how close these guys are. Look at just a few of them. This is in 1993, for instance. This is the same year that we found as well that Jeffrey Epstein attended Donald Trump's wedding to Marla Maples. Trump flew on that plane 4 times with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell between Palm Beach, where Mar-a-Lago is, and where Epstein also owns a home. Let's fast forward then to 1994. Trump flew from Palm Beach to Washington, D.C. with his then wife, Marla Maples, his daughter, Tiffany, and a nanny before they returned to New Jersey that day. In August 1995, just he and Eric were on board with Epstein and Maxwell again. They flew from Palm Beach to Teterboro in New Jersey. And then in January 1997, Trump flew with the pair from Palm Beach to Newark, New Jersey. All of these trips, 8 in total, were documented in logs that I mentioned were from that trial.
You also took a look at what Donald Trump himself has said about Jeffrey Epstein. What did you find?
Yeah, that's right. And one of the things that's always been so striking is that quote that he said in 2002 that we found in that New York Magazine article where he said he was a terrific guy, he liked beautiful women just like him. And then that quote where he says he likes many of them on the younger side. That was from an article entitled Jeffrey Epstein, International Money Man of Mystery in New York Magazine. Now, just 2 years later, we were going through Donald Trump's book, and there he had one called How to Get Rich. And then we wrote in his book that somebody named Mysterious Jeffrey had called him, and that you could see it right there. That's the passage from his book. He says Jeffrey calls in, but there's actually a lot of activity between these two in 2004. One of the things that was seized from Jeffrey Epstein's home during that initial investigation to him in the mid-2000s were message pads. And on those message pads, there were 2, if you look here, 2 messages from Donald Trump in November of 2004. This is around the time the two of them actually were competing to buy a property in West Palm Beach. Trump ultimately won out. He beat Epstein, and this is allegedly part of what made their relationship deteriorate.
Yeah, Donald Trump's talked about that as well. Your review also, I mean, you looked also through tons of photos and tons of video of Trump and Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell together from Mar-a-Lago to here in Manhattan. Walk us through kind of some of those moments that you found.
Yeah, Kate, and these images, they really speak for themselves. In November 1992, there's an image that a lot of people have seen, and it's of Trump and Epstein, and they're dancing there. You can see with models. I think you can see Ghislaine Maxwell in the background if you look. She was there just a second ago. Just a year later, we had found, or previously, Epstein was at Trump's wedding in 1993. That's the photo there on the left. 1997, you can see in that photo on the right, that's them at a Victoria's Secret Angels event. And then in 1999, this that I found in some archives shows Trump and Epstein, and they're actually chatting at a Victoria's Secret fashion show. In 1997, he was also photographed with Maxwell at a fashion show. These guys attended a lot of fashion shows together, it looks like. And then in February of 2000, there was an event in Mar-a-Lago that featured not only Trump, Epstein, and Maxwell, but also Prince Andrew was also at this event. And these images were initially published in the Palm Beach Post in the year 2000. So there's a lot of public appearances, and it definitely undercuts Trump's claim that he was not a fan and they were sort of just distant acquaintances.
So owner helped us start a business, but it also helped us bring community together.
Are you over 45 years old and live in Canada? Then watch this. This month only, we are looking for 500.
What is the president saying about this?
So we reached out to the White House. We asked them about all of this on CNN.com. If you read the timeline, it's very extensive. They didn't respond to any of the detailed questions that we sent. But Stephen Chung, who is the communications director for the White House, sent along a statement saying, quote, the fact is that the president kicked him out of his club for being a creep. So it's going to be interesting to see, because he says they weren't close. He says he was not a fan, but we continue to just see more and more revelations come out.
We've heard that similar statement from Stephen Chung many times about questions that linger. It's great to see you. Great reporting as always. Thanks, Andrew. A key figure in the Epstein case, who later worked for President Trump, could soon be called to testify under oath. Alex Acosta was the prosecutor who infamously gave Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart deal in 2008, a deal that allowed Epstein to serve minimal time in prison, and a deal that shut down the federal investigation into his alleged sex trafficking ring. Acosta then went on to serve as Trump's first-term labor secretary. For reasons unknown, Acosta, the man who would know everything about the Epstein case, was left off the House Oversight Committee's list of subpoenaed witnesses. But tonight, a Republican on that committee, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, is telling the Palm Beach Post that calling Acosta to testify is not, quote, off the table. She also says at any time he can be called to testify. I'm going to speak to the top Democrat on that committee in a moment about plans to subpoena Acosta, because even though dozens of victims had come forward at that point, Acosta, as I mentioned, let Epstein off easy, allowed him to plead guilty to just 2 prostitution-related charges. Epstein served only 13 months in a county jail and was allowed to leave the jail nearly every day for 12 hours. The Department of Justice review later found that Acosta exercised poor judgment in the case, although he continued to defend his actions years after the case was closed.
There was value to getting a guilty plea. You can always look at a play after the fact and say, should it have been the safe play, or should you have gone for the big score?
This comes as President Trump is, many think, trying to change the subject from Epstein as he threatens a full-on federal takeover of Washington, D.C. But it's Trump's own party who won't let Epstein go.
When I was young, I chipped my tooth just a little, just right here,
of this government holding on
just like the corner, dog.
They're sick and tired.
And my whole mouth is on fire,
by the intelligence community and by a deep state. I hope that we don't have to wait 60, 70 years to find out what really happened when it came to Jeffrey Epstein.
Kristen Holmes is out front at the White House for us tonight. Kristen, just as President Trump was trying to shift attention to D.C., his takeover of the police
Like, you
department,
see
there are
this
members
shit
of his
on
own
my
party are making
finger?
Epstein
That's
front
how
and
much of
center
my
again.
tooth fell off.
They are,
And
Kate.
my
And
whole-
just to be clear, President Trump, the White House, they don't want to be talking about this. And you talk about how he's been shifting the narrative. Of course, you've seen this happen time and time again as they've tried to get away from this story. But they were just starting to see some success in that. I mean, it had been over a month of them being on the defensive when it came to the Epstein story. And I was actually told that they were starting to
what are you saying? Your
circulate some of
names are
our
wrong.
polling that we put on air of how
names are wrong.
the searches for the Epstein case had dropped down. And they were sending that amongst themselves to try and show that there was no reason to insert this into the narrative again, to bring up the Epstein files and any kind of conversations about the transcripts between Blanche and Maxwell.
I'm gonna end this stream right now.